Coming
Hello,
in.
everyone. Welcome to Divine Dialogue. I'm your host here, Dahlia Rose, and we're joining you this afternoon. Just casual conversation of divine origins, and I'm so blessed to have with me Garrett Duncan. Uh, I don't even know how to put into actual words because we speak the star language to each other and we speak from the heart, but you know we have this connection and anyway, we have something very special to bring to you all. So I'll leave it at that. Um, so just to introduce him properly, Garrett is a star being of gosh. I mean, you'll have to explain to us your origins and things like that. But what we are talking about is he is a vessel, a channel for various actually star nations, I think, including the Sasquatch. So we hope to hear from them as well. And as you guys join us, yes, you guys join us, we will see your comments and your questions. So make sure you have them. But I've heard myself, Duncan speak and share from that heart centered place. And it is incredible. So I'm going to stop talking now and let him let him share for a moment while we add some more folks to the stream.
All
So
right.
welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, Miss Dahlia. Thank you, Sun Stella. Thank you for having us. If you it's good to hear the many resonances that are coming into full fruition now, full fledging in the star blooming part of our beingness now. So, in this container, in this current vessel, Garrett here choosing to embody the indigenous lineage coming from the Navajo Nation, so stemming from those peoples. When I do, it's interesting now because it's like in Navajo traditions, we usually introduce ourselves by stating our clans. So we usually
Mm,
say our clans in Navajo to share with each other, to introduce ourselves so that we can establish kinship, because the idea is around the resonances that are beyond the bloodline connection. And so when we establish the communication in Navajo through the sharing of our clans, then we start to address each other in as a brother, as a sister, as a relative. And so I'm going to start off with that because it helps, especially with right now, with so many of the different star nations who are here. It does help anchor in the energy and hold it so we don't start blowing things up. Because as you can imagine, the frequencies are starting to be like, it's like, oh, here we go.
right.
So
They come in all at once.
exactly. So I'm just gonna help tone it down and ask our ancestors bring forth these messages from them for us in this awareness. Yeah, it's Eshe Garrett Duncan Unish, yeah. Torich eating Nish Lindo Tachini Bashes Chin Nakaidene Dasha Cheho one planet Dasha Nulle. Says na as eat the Ayas and Nasha hot aya the Nenishno. About aya the ko the nebezad I shish yashkit. So in that awareness with regards to the language itself, um, I like to share that language too because um, they can hear the differences. We can hear the differences versus when we start to formulate and come into the other aspects of our beingness, the many multidimensional forms of us, of we, in this current state of now. And so
Mhm.
Shon Stellara Tekiri. So this part of me, Alon Sushtikilatan, that resonates on the higher quantum embodiment. Guyesandile Kushonya, coming from far, far, to be here amongst all of us, all of you, here on this earthly existence. Gnutun Stella to participate in the role ila Nukila, bringing awareness for all of us, for awareness in the form of our conscious existence, Sun San, in the remembrance in this grand Ilusun Stella reveal, as they refer it to, Yokuhakara Sasan. So that part of me, the more galactic aspect of my being, comes from New Stille, a system, a world. And this fairly, I would say, fairly recently, within the last 3 4 months, no, sorry, more like 3 4 years, something like that. I was like, what's that, the time construct, forget it.
Right.
Yeah, but the planet system that came into awareness for me, as far as one of my original points, is a system known as Andaria. So this planetary system, the name of the star, Andaria, Leuciscienstera. And all we know around this system particularly is that it's 7 universes from this universe. So it's not only the universe within this construct of how we feel, see, identify it, but it's further, like even for further. So like really blowing people's minds. So like, what? You're telling us there's more than one? Uh-huh. So like, whoa, I thought we were just not. I'm like, no, some of us have come from a very far distance, so that we can be here and assist, the planetary Earth, in her growth and in her remembrance and assisting all the children that are part of it. So this is one of the main things why we're here.
What an amazing time to be alive and to have such a great mission. And I want to remind our audience, as we're going through this experience together, really tap into that heart space, because the mind will try to conceptualize what it means to be 7 universes away, and try to bring it into logic, especially if you're a Virgo. But really, when you feel into that heart and you allow these things to come forward, everything slows down, and you can feel your place in that mission, and it's such a beautiful thing. I know
Yes.
my heart is opening as you speak.
Yes. And that's one of the awarenesses and remembrances that I encourage everyone when it comes to an understanding of awareness with regards to, oh, well, what system or what is he saying? What language is that? That all those questions and those curiosities stem from, yes, the more mental part of our egoic self here in this construct from the third dimensional existence. And so when it comes to relaying translation and relaying a remembrance of consciously speaking again these various languages, that's where a lot of emphasis that I encourage everyone to do is to hone in and tune back in to the heart part of our being, because and that's one awareness that the star nations have shared with us is Stella. It's much easier in the fluidity of feeling, in the fluidity of sensation when it comes to an understanding through translation, to trying to formulate these words, to formulate the construction that identifies the meaning behind what is being presented in that current moment. And so a lot of the times, Yushtumo, when they are awakening into that conscious remembrance of their individual star language, their individual language that services like as their mother tongue, which is like the trainer language. The trainer language is like, okay, get used to it. This is it just comes out, but I still don't know what I'm saying. No, just keep letting it come out.
Yes. Oh goodness, I remember class. I wanted to hold back so much because I wanted to process it.
Yeah.
And I love that you said trainer language.
Yes.
Now, with the trainer languages, I recall you speaking about these trainer languages even being star languages
Mm-hmm.
at one point. Can you
Mm-hmm.
speak a little bit more on that?
Yes, so a lot of these trainer languages are certainly like when you think of the idea, and I had this asked of me just this past Saturday. I was participating in a fair here in Denver. One of the participants had asked me, well, how is it that you know when it comes to the formulation around the meaning? And I was explaining to him as I was honing into that awareness of trying to give him an explanation. I said, well, first of all, they're letting you know, letting us know, remembering that here on Earth, that there were these individual languages that had come here from the settlement in the form of various colonies. So
Mm,
different star colonies had settled here on Earth. And that's where the Sasquatch teachings, Uniac here, the Sasquatch have brought that awareness around that the historical relevance, the historical more expanded version, if you want to call it that, of our history that's beyond this Lemuria, beyond Atlantis. It goes even stemming earlier. And so he was asking, well, how is it that these languages have come into form now? And I was sharing with him, I said, keep in mind, in the first part of our evolution with regards to the human construct, there was no language. It was not
mm,
spoken out loud. It
right.
wasn't formulated through the vocalizations, through the word dialogue, through the word utilization. And so,
Mm,
so that's where the more expanded resonance stems from the heart. So it's communication in the form of our natural intuitive aspects. So we were born with the intuition, as I remind everyone, say, guys, we always have it. It's always there. It's
yes.
always part of us. It's always part of you. And so again, emphasis and reminder, heart, resonance there. Okay, so that part there. But then the mind came later because it's like, well, now, and you think of caveman times, you ancient ones from that time. They weren't communicating like how you and I are having this dialogue right now. It
Right.
grunts, probably or even sighing, at first. So this is where again in that awareness, the more teacher languages were coming into form
Mm,
when they brought that from the colonies various star systems. So a lot of us, when you think of the whole awareness of star seeds, I'm sure everyone has resonance to the Pleiadians, resonance to the Arcturians, resonance to the Syrians, resonance to the Andromedans. And so these were one of the more individual star races that had come here to Earth to oversee, her evolution along with all the children's that stem from her. So you think of those initial colonies were brought, and I'm hearing right now Lyra. Lyra's one of the big ones
yes.
too, the Lyrians. So these peoples were one of our ancient, one of more human construct in the human being of our being. They're like our ancient grandfathers and grand elders, I should say. So these
Right.
beings were also participated in the construct of how we have dialogue now. So you see a sense. So these languages, a lot of the languages that we're speaking now comes from their languages. So, and of course, sometimes a lot of those beings too, they don't have a spoken word. They might communicate hands, or they might communicate in the form of symbols, or even
Right.
like Sasquatch, a lot of their communications telepathic too, because again, they don't have developed vocal cords.
And that telepathy piece, just as a reminder, is a heart language. I know a lot of people conceptualize it as the mind's talking, but those who engage with telepathy, if you recognize in yourself that there is a heart opening that happens when your heart is so big, you walk around and you hear everybody's thoughts and you have these exchanges. It is because your heart is so large and you're in that heart-centered space, maybe intentionally or unintentionally. Now,
Yes.
We have a question, so I'm going to bring it on screen here. So the question is, would you describe the trainer language with that of speaking in tongues? What is the difference in light language and speaking in tongues?
There actually, in that awareness, in that construct, there is no difference. So really the idea, again, going back to the construct, and it comes back to the dialogue of definition. So when you're in that dialogue, when you're in that conscious expression, when I refer to conscious, I primarily refer to more of our mental egoic construct, this part of our being that's in human form. We have a mind, right? So you have all facets of us, all facets of we. And the heart is the heart body connected to emotional body, mind body, egoic self. And so that construct of speaking in tongues and light language, star language, it all has basically the same definition. Distum stella. So speaking in tongue, of course, and from my just in my awareness is that it was a construct that was brought forward from the more organized religious part of our beingness here in this earthly. So that part of that construct stems from there because, of course, you can imagine they did not know how else to describe it. So,
Right.
yeah, it sounds tongues because I'm sure there were many tongues, there were many other languages that were being expressed in many different forms and many different embodiments. So, not one language sounds very the same, as another language that would be spoken. So hence, of course, you would think that the priests at the time or the ordained ministers at the time would have to develop some type of construct that says, okay, we're just going to call it speaking in tongues, just let it be, but it's some form of prayer because they were probably still feeling in those moments that resonance, right? So a lot of us who are, like you said, Adalia Sukusianya, as we are in that resonance of being in that heart, Eloania Kana illuminates even more. Eluna Keles the sun, illuminate the lighter far, the lighter part, Ilistun just continues to expand. So in that construct, they felt it, even though mine was like, we got to put some label on this.
Yes, it sounds like we've got understanding here, very much like verbalizing symbols.
Yes.
And I don't know if you would have any handy, but Garrett, I have looked and witnessed your taking the light language and putting it on paper, and that is even transformative.
Yes. And
Um,
our guys must have been talking because right before I jump on board, they're like, get your notebook out. And it's going to display display some of the written forms in the form of symbols. So again, in the construct, when we are, and this is part of the experience, I just want to emphasize and let the viewership know, as part of our experience, so in that separation from that soul form, from that soul body, from that particular system, when we separate, we are here in that separation, having this conscious awareness where we get to experience these frequencies, these individual vibrations, in this density, in this third dimensional existence. And that's one of the main reasons as to why, to me, that's why I was like, oh, sure, let's go ahead and come back down again. Let's go ahead and taste the flavors of ice cream and see what chocolate feels like. And yeah, sad emotions, or fun, happy emotions, right? So that's all part of that is separation for us to experience. And so again, in the language, individual language forms, the different formalities, so sikinsanya, you'll see, and this is one I really want, that this is one that she really wants to come on board and share with you guys. So this came in for another client. And this is what's been happening to me lately because initially, yeah, the language is I'm speaking, but I'm starting to now come in with a certain written language form. And these language forms, it's pretty much really utilized on a lighter scale, like just depending on what that construct is needed for them. So in this particular case, this one came form because it was a being. She came forward to introduce herself, and she was a cat being. She's a cat being, and she goes by the name of Yanara. and she's from Sirius A, and this is what she came in.
Oh, wow.
So you see that. Garrett's disappearing now.
We caught a glimpse of her and her beautiful face.
I know Garrett's getting a glimpse too, so this is fun. All right, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, now she's not. She's like, I'm shy.
Invisible beings.
Yeah. She's like, I'm shy. There she is. So if you guys can kind of see, you can see some of the language right where I'm holding my hands here. But that part of see, so her name came forward, and you can see the various symbols that are coming forward from that. So this is kind of just one of many. One of many. And so let's do see again. Mira, this one is the fleets of Phoenix. So the Phoenix fleets. So for those of you who are very much in resonance with the energies of what a phoenix embodies, what it symbolizes, on a galactic form, this symbol, it was more like an emblem. So the Phoenix fleets, as they're referred to, there's these various fleets that are in star form that are, of course, assisting us now. And their emblem, I hope, come on, guys. There it is.
There we go.
So it looks like a bird. So you see the little triangle with the eyes and then the big tummies. Mm-hmm. That one cracks me up because when their fleets come in, they always have these like big rounded tummies to their emblems. So it's like their stamp of approval. That's what the Phoenix fleets, they have their emblems. So again, so along those star awarenesses, son, there's so many. And the construct, well, how many languages do you speak, Garrett? Well, silly human, how many stars do you think are up there? Well, that's just the stars. How many planets do you think are revolving around those stars? So the idea of trying to label and put into form, bring into form, well, you have Yonara, who's introduced herself from Sirius A. But Sirius A, Sirius C, as well as Sirius B, they all have planets that are revolving. So these systems, they revolve around each other. So these systems like the whales, the dolphins, most likely these beings stem from Sirius B, so in the sense of planetary system of a big watery world that orbits around Sirius B. And then you have Sirius A, which is next to it, and those two stars are binary. So imagine they like revolve around each other. And it's always amazing to me too, because when I see it, when I journey there and I see it, it's like, wow, they're doing this cool looking dance. I'm like, how is it that they don't go boom, 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 clashing with each other, because they're almost like on opposite sides of their individual spectrum, So that part, it's pretty mind-blowing, even more.
So as we wake up and we begin to interact with these star beings, and I know in my experience, it's the mental construct wants to come in and justify, and then it's like, okay, no, be in the heart center. We're still allowed to ask questions, and engage in a way that doesn't necessarily try to put them in a box, but it's almost like falling in love.
Yeah.
And you want to know everything.
Exactly. Well, again, along that dialogue, you're really just falling in love with yourself all over again, with another aspect of you. And so again, in this awareness, a lot of the star beings, the mental construct were separate of. But in the true form, this is just another aspect of Garrett. This is probably Garrett's Sasquatch self right here. Uniac is his name. And Uniac, who knows Garrett better than his own self, is one of his forms, which is Sasquatch. So that part of my beingness is in resonance with that, because I have a multidimensional self connected to him. So when you think of the idea of past lives, so you have lifetimes that we've embodied here on Earth. And so you imagine in those lifetimes, we also have those memories that are affiliated with that particular moment of time and that expression of our beingness. And so you have earthly lifetimes, then you have lifetimes that are connected to our Syrian selves, our Sasquatch selves, our Andromedan selves, we have Pleiadian selves. So now that's where these constructs around languages are coming in. And the only way that this vessel, the more human form, can really understand it is that, well, we have to override this. So let's just go ahead and take it. Let's just keep bouncing, 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 bouncing. And the only definition, translation can really come forward is through here. This will interpret. This will feel those frequencies come in, you know?
Absolutely. It reminds me, I get so excited because the connections that you're making frequently I have conversations about the spiritual path and the awakening process and the openings that happen. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a deep dive into self-love. And then, you know, we get into the traumas and the, oh, I don't love this about myself. And in this conversation, we are talking about how you need to absolutely love yourself in order to engage with these frequencies. And so here is motivation, here is inspiration to take that further, to allow that part of you to open up
Yes.
because of that self-love process. And this is where the boundaries come in, and oh, I love myself enough to teach you how to love me, and I love myself to understand this is who I was then, this is who I am now, and it's all a complete picture. And
Correct.
then the star languages are frequencied and attached to those points of acceptance.
Exactly. And they're just another form of us, of you, of we. So when you think
Yes.
of the awareness and again, the idea of oneness, if we're all one, then that's just another aspect of you. And in the remembrance, that's where now you have access to that particular memory. So the language and those memories that are affiliated with come into full expression, come into form, come into conscious awareness. So that part, right? The Sasquatch are also known as the land whales. They're referred to as the
Huh.
whales of the lands because you can hear and feel the tonalities that are emanating from them sounds very much like the whale beings. So because I have access in the form of my memory with them embodied in that lifetime, that access allows me to bring forward this vocalization the best I know how to relay for all of you to feel. So even though it's like, oh, what is he saying? But there's something going on in here,
Yes.
and it's like, woo, man, I feel that.
Absolutely. As you were doing it, it was sudden, but it was just like it was like menthol on my chest. It was like
I love it. Did you hear that? When you actually set menthol on the chest.
that's the only way I can explain it. And you know,
Yeah.
I love the there's a it brings you back to innocence. So I have a 5-year-old who oh, we had another feeling from all of this. Squiggly. I
Really.
love the words.
Exactly.
Keep them coming, keep those feelings coming. We want to hear your experience. I have a 5-year-old who has um at first, I guess the logical community would call it slightly regressing, language wise. But
Okay.
I after having your class, I'm like, oh, he's advancing language wise, because he would come in and he'd like, and you know, we have to have moments of, okay, English, you know, because we want to understand what he's trying to
That's
communicate. and
correct.
and you know, so he has to do the dance back and forth, but it was very
Yep.
sudden. It was only within the last 6 months. Up to
Mm-hmm.
that point, it was,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't so intentional.
Yes, exactly. It's for them, like especially with a lot of the younger star souls in human form. It's still trying more or less to gain a grasp, like grasping how to operate in this density. And so they're still in their innocence, they're still in their purity, where they still have their connection to their individual star forms. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in that individual part of their beingness, they can relay communication and vocalize that very easily. So, for them, it's like they have that access that's just there. It's almost like you're just swapping from Spanish to French almost, you
Yeah.
know. So quizás, like for me, it's easier now, like in
Mm-hmm.
easier in the sense of I can go from English. My English was going out of the window for the longest time. It was just like, "Okuya naka ishi, oh my God, I can't even I can't be in this density anymore." So we still had a thought, but they're still humans, guys. So I still have to speak my English. You can understand. So I say, like, what are we gonna do?
Right, right. If you want your message out, we need translation.
Right. Exactly. And it
Oh
does kind of
goodness.
give you awareness around that is that initially, so when the awakening, the more or less remembrance, the access of your individual star language, it comes from however it is. It doesn't always sound the same. You'll feel a difference in variation with the rhythms, the sensations that are emanating. And a lot of times, again, the mind will try to come in and say, well, oh, is that really star language? That sounds like a gibberish. You know, when you start doing that, you start judging yourself and then you start thinking you're making it up. And what happens is your access gets shut off.
Yep.
And so just know that the dialogue and translation, it'll come later. But before, you have to get used to and be comfortable with the trainer. So these trainer languages, the first language that you start to speak gets you in that comfortableness. Like you, it gets you comfortable with that fullest expression of you in that moment of your being. So it's like a good foundational resonance. Then from there, you'll continually expand, gain new accesses to all these other memories, the other star forms, and then the translation will come. And so a lot of the times, people will already start to doubt themselves whether or not it's a real language because they're wondering, well, what the heck am I saying? It's
Yep.
always like, what the heck am I saying? So hence, the minute you have that thought, boom, you block yourself. Your access just got closed energetically. So now it's kind of hard to get back into that same space again. So a lot of the times, again, with the remembrance, it's more or less stella. You have to just be in the flow, be comfortable speaking it out loud, expressing yourself in this way. Then from there, ualan stella, you'll start to relay translation slowly, Okushian Stella Ara, because again, you have to switch from star self, go back into human self, hurry relay translation, go back to star. So there's a lot of, especially with, I'll tell you, the Arcturians in human form.
Oh
It's
my
like,
goodness.
woo!
It's so fast. I recall I was in a deep state of meditation and I was preparing for a healing session. I believe the person was an Arcturian starseed. And they were
Uh,
like, oh, brother, sister's coming home. And it was like, and I was like, and I couldn't, like, at one point, I couldn't stop my mouth from moving. And
yes.
my jaw started to hurt. And I was like, what is going on? And then the logical mind was like, shut it down.
Yep, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that part of being. So again, when because again, you have to think about it from the aspect of us. We're operating here in this vibration, and then Arcturian really high, like. And so you have to really bring yourself down, and this part has to go up. So that exchange, sometimes it's a little wearing on the vessel physically. So
Mhm.
you feel like you've got to work out because you're trying to and then come back here and relay and then go back up and then relay. So it does feel like there's a constant like you said, like a workout, because it's like I have to take a lot of breaths in between to sukanarikidikan, especially if I know it's a really fast language. So this vessel is like, oh my gosh, Gary, you need to slow down. So I have to breathe through the nose because the nose helps in that transition, like, okay, anchor. So, all right. you know?
Absolutely. And in the healing process, breath work is how we detoxify. So as you're going through that, and then you bring in the nose, it like you said, it grounds it into the vessel, and the cells
Correct.
hear it, and
Yep.
and the muscles, and they go and they find where all the little traumas are hidden, and it just it pops, it just bursts. And so I've been eternally grateful. I know it's been very transformative for my personal life and my sessions. I'm very grateful that you embody this vessel, and that you bring these things through in these teachings. And I wonder, if you can expand maybe more on how to get into the heart space. We talk about feeling it,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have the wounds that disconnect you, have you found any helpful ways to reconnect?
Yes, so with regards to the wounding, a lot of that does stem from when this is where I know we've been picking on our egoic self for a while. So this is actually where the egoic self can help, because in the egoic mental embodied, see it as a program, problem, projection, pattern. That's it. So you're objectifying, you're labeling, oh, okay. So then from there, when you realize, oh, I'm an observer, I don't have to engage in this anymore, but I can step out of that paradigm and out of that pattern and out of that program. So you're saying, Garrett, that I have a choice? We are saying you have a choice. But because of the traumas, that's where the compromised emotional body gets us in trouble. I always say the emotions get the humans in trouble, whether good emotions or whether they're shadowy emotions.
Yep.
So it's coalesce. It gets all convoluted, right? So that shadow trauma, who am I to have a voice, Garrett? And that's that part of your life. Ugh. So from those triggers and those tragedies, it keeps us down. So you're not compromised. So when you recognize from more egoic self and say, you know what, I'm not going to speak or feel from the emotional body or from the empathic self, the sensitive self. Let's see it objectively. Oh, it's a program. Oh, it's a pattern. Oh,
Mm.
it's a projection. Oh, it's a problem. Well, what can I do about that? Well, laugh it off, silly human. It's the fastest way. So again, so when you're laughing it off, your vibe shoots up. And now that, like you said, with the breath work, those bubbles start to burst, burst,
Mhm.
burst, burst. Because all it is those projections are just coalesced. They're just convoluted pockets. Like they're all stuck. Not, the laughter goes in there, boom, 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 breaks it up, breaks it up.
I, I had this vision of bubble wrap. As children, you get so much joy out of just
Yeah,
snapping those little things. And this is what we can do as you're
exactly.
describing it.
Exactly. And that's where, again, the inner child comes in. So, in the awareness of remembrance of your child, that child part of our beingness, we allow ourselves to play. We allow ourselves to laugh. We go back into that innocence. We go back into that curiosity. We go back into that playful expression, the artistic expression. I'm sure a lot of us have always judged ourselves like, we don't have a voice, you
Mhm.
can't sing, or you're like humming, humming, and then mom tells you to be quiet, or or older sister, older brother, oh, you don't have a voice, shut up, right? So what
Yeah.
do? They just boom, boom, boom. So now you close this vessel off right here. So that's one of our most important tools that is free. Oh my gosh, it's free, guys. you
What?
know?
Free medicine, free healing.
Yeah, oh my gosh, guys, did you know that you have a free tool right here and you didn't realize it was there in front of you all this time?
Yes, yes, yes.
So if you're laughing, right? But if you allow that joyful expression of your beingness, so this is where now we're going to go into the energy resonance of the Elohim. So the resonance of the angelic ones who they come and form into into awareness of expression of sound and tonality. Yundo la leansturiamo. So that vibration already expanding. Yanilianstulamo. And so that's the other Actuians that I've heard. They do this humming. See how it shoots up high? And your vessel is already vibrating, you know? So it's like, whoa, shoot you up.
And I'm clearing now.
Speaking of clearing, you're knocked Ariel to her Arcturian self.
Oh my goodness.
So the toning and the song part about being, so that has been coming into awareness very strongly too in the past 2 weeks, because again, this vessel's water. So when we are trying to slash and balance, slash and balance, for how long are we trying to balance for? And then the next trigger will go imbalance, right?
Right.
So what Star Nations have sharing is more or less, guys, it's about resonate, harmonize. So we're already in that flow, and it's not so slashy. It's like you're more in that harmonic resonate. So you're taking that harmonies and really being in that embodiment of what that feels like. That's where the heart comes in and says, oh, wow, I felt that. I really, and you're really more calmer. You're a lot more open. You feel probably also too felt the sense of expansion that was going on with all of that. See?
Yes.
So again, that's where also we have to be careful around how we are utilizing our spoken language, in the especially spoken in just in the sense of more or less the English languages or the earthly languages that have been here. Because when I would, and you remember the class when I was teaching the star language, how you all of you to remember, it was about the fluidity. And so the construct of like English and the German based languages have this strong, rough edge to it, and it's very structured, it's very rigid. So you can, so it's like almost like when you feel it, you're just like, ugh. Whereas in comparison, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, so they have more flow and fluid. So sure, that's why they refer to as Romance language, is because there is a lot more vibrancy catered around the heart. So when the star languages again are coming into your conscious expression, that's where you're taking out of the construct of the mind of the more rigidness. If this is open enough, a lot of us will automatically start to feel it already.
Absolutely. And as you were talking about being in resonance and flow, I got this vision of when you are in these challenging places. Like we had a comment here. I had the experience of singing, but my mind was like, what am I doing? I'm tone deaf. I cannot sing. But that feeling into that construct, right? Because this person is echoing every time they were told that they cannot sing. The natural way that we are brought up is to shield from that, to protect from that. But being in resonance and flow from what you're saying means that you can tone or harmonize in that space and change the story in that
And
moment.
yes, exactly. And so one of those also too, another tool of awareness around that is, even if for the time being you don't feel like you have that voice expression, just hum. So a lot of times I've been encouraging individuals, like, when you're humming, so that vibration is already moving through you when you are humming. So I was doing this comparison in one of the lives a few weeks ago, I think. I said, oming. when you're oming, remember there's when the monks and stuff om. So you om, but in reality, it's more like you're just humming a deeper hum. So that oh, so you're developing that resonance. So even though in that construct of awareness where you can't really hear yourself, but when I cover my ears, and I hum, I can still feel the vibration. So I'm still feeling it in my body. You're still feeling it there. Like, oh wow, okay. So it's kind of like in water, right? You're in a kid and you're like blowing the bubble, you know? Yeah,
Yes,
because we put those limitations on ourselves. We
we
put those.
do.
But again, we have the capacity. Again, this is where our star forms, however it is, in the more expanded forms, we can override a lot of these hindrances. We can override these outdated constructs, these outdated problem patterns. And this is just one tool to do so.
Mhm. Yes. And when you go to defend yourself, when you feel like, oh, I'm going to give this person a piece of my mind, or if you're in a situation, say at work, where you cannot speak your mind, can you go to the bathroom? Can you go to the car or at your desk and just, everything that you're feeling, rather than trying to put, as Garrett said, the, um, those hard languages where you just want to cuss that
Yeah,
person out.
yeah.
Just go into the vibrations and the tones of it. I wonder what that would do. I sorry, I got really excited about the
Yeah. And
possibility.
as you were talking about that, Dahlia, I was envisioning all of a sudden, like we're at a conference, right? And you're in the spotlight. And then pretty soon someone has this question where everyone started to trigger each other and they got into this argumentative space. And we just look at each other where, like, all right, let's just all ohm, or let's just go into a tone. Let's just do a new. Really just let that vibration shoot out and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then pretty soon you're gonna feel like all that. Now it's
Yes.
settling down, calming down again. Now do we have your attention, everybody? Isn't it better to sing in tone versus trying to be one up each other and see who's better at what and let this egoic mind self trying to defend? It's like let's just
Yes.
all harmonize. We're all one anyway. Come on, silly humans.
Yes, meld into each other. There's so much disconnect
Mm-hmm.
that causes these moments, and what a beautiful picture to harmonize and melt into each other. And some people might like, oh, well, that person's not healed and this person is. And you're looking at an aspect of yourself. It's the ho'oponopono. The part of me in you. I see that wound, and if I sing to it and you sing back to me, we just bounce through those energies in that moment.
Exactly, because again, too, and to remember, so now you can think more on the scientific level. This vessel's water. We are 75 to 85% water, and water carries memory. Water has memory. And so, if we're bringing the more memory construct into conscious awareness of tone and harmonization and joy and laughter, then yeah, you're going to start to reflect that out, and people are going to feel it because once your auric fields cross, they're going to already feel it like, wow, you just feel it. And that's where that that energetic dialogue exchange already starts to happen automatically, and we don't necessarily have to try.
This is a famous tactic in NLP. Whatever you want a person to feel, you have to feel it yourself first. And
Yep.
so now we bring it into the healing space, and not to control you with NLP, but to to bring in the vibration and the harmony
Mm-hmm.
between two people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so I have also been aware promotion, more or less helping individuals remember. So when you think of the idea, initially, yes, it started star seeds, right? Start being, so that where when you're being right, and like you shared that programming of being, now that vibrancy automatically goes out by being it, by being in that embodiment, by being in that peace, by being in that happiness and being. So this is where that start blooming. So we're moving into the star blooms now. Yeah, seed, 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 seed. And then we're gonna tone it up. We're gonna speak it up like a nura. And then do 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 do. So now you can imagine again when you go back to when you had your language activated, that part of your being just went whoop, and it went beautiful lotus flower, and you're like, I could no claro. We're like, yay, welcome back.
It was a wild experience, and it was so beautiful. It had to be a room full of like maybe like 10 or 15 people,
Yeah, it was pretty
all
big.
harmonizing on Zoom, and it's just Dara the good the buru in the garage in the mind to water in the remake and it was just it was ripple after ripple, and you'd stop and feel into it, and it was like a room full of ohms, and
Yes.
and and it was I like listen, I have no words. Only sounds.
Mine is still trying to understand it, right? Still
You're
trying
right.
to. I don't know how to define it down, but it went down.
And even if you are in a place of trying to rationalize, go ahead and look at what sound has done for our meditations, for our medical community. I mean, they use sound to blast through different ailments and to bring things into harmony. Or you can look at how, have you ever seen those things where they put plastic over speakers, and then they do the frequency, whatever it is, and it forms into a shape like the seed
Oh
of
yeah.
life, the
Yes.
flower.
Yes.
Yes. And so while we cannot, you can't put plastic over your mouth and do the same thing, but the vibration is there,
Exactly.
and you
Exactly.
can harmonize the tones of those same frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like with different star systems, they may have the technology you need for whatever it is that you're moving through, the experience that you're
Mm-hmm.
having, the beingness that you're in. You may find a new star system is like, oh, I have the tools for that, and they drop it down into that heart space, and that starts to come forward. I know I
Correct.
found that in my sessions. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and as you're talking about it right now, bringing into awareness, what I'm feeling is ready to drop in is wow. You're gonna love this, by the way, Aria. You're gonna love this. So the technology, what they're saying right now, it's still in its infancy, but it's already here to hear what crystal music sounds like.
Oh my God. If you could only see what L is around me.
I know. Same with me on my end. I got some malachite right here. I got my cool little wrapped pyramid quartz here. I got some Herkimer bracelet with the pineapple quartz here. And so what they just shared right now too, they're like, that's why too, already the crystalline, how we're hearing this in the form of tone and sound right now. Crystal bowls, you have your crystal chimes. Even I've heard some moldavite crystals that have,
Yes.
they tinkle, they like tick, tick, tick. So they're now saying you guys are being prepared. Those sound alchemists are being prepared, but now they're going to have technologies just like with the plants. They have biorhythm machines now that interpret the songs of plants. So the plants are singing like we can hear it as in music. So it's the same concept idea of crystals that are going to happen real soon. I'm like, oh, because again, these beings are alive. Yep. I was like,
Yes.
woo, I'm getting some shivers.
You're 100% right. I am fantastically excited about
I know.
this.
I
I'm
am
here
too.
for it. Can we have it now?
I know. And imagine, you having a crystal chamber, sound chamber, and all
Oh.
you're doing is just having those machines plug in 24/7. When we go in there, whoever needs the healing, go in there, and we're just coming out all blissed out, like, all right, I'm better.
You know, there was a meditation I had after a session with one of my favorite people. She called herself the Urban Spirit Guide, and she talked about these underwater pyramids and these chambers inside of them. And it feels like you're referencing those things. We've tried to recreate these. There are chambers over in like the Middle East and like Israel and different places
Mm-hmm.
where they had these chambers and you know the archaeologists said, we don't know what these are for, you know, but they're rounded ceilings and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but we know what those are for.
Totally.
And the and you mentioned the plant technology in their songs. These are Icaros. These are, you know, the Shipibo people have been working with the plant medicine songs for decades and have even not decades, centuries, and have even, I'll have to bring it out. They have woven some of these songs into their tapestries as well. I don't know if I can get it out here. Um, so you see things like this,
Ah,
and each angle is a note, is a sound,
yes.
and it's woven, and they can sing, and it's these beautiful harmonic tones. And so I'm very excited for the crystal technology,
Yes.
as it we have that layer, we have a crystalline layer to us.
Yep.
And I'm also seeing, like, as you're talking about the crystal technology, how um, when we tone around our brothers and sisters of
Mm-hmm.
crystalline form,
Mm-hmm.
how they get activated. I know I've gotten, I had an agate arrowhead from you, and it was fully activated and charged as a spiritual tool.
Yeah.
And it's from these technologies I imagine you're talking about, yes?
Yes, that's correct. And so that's also too where the expressive form, the legumes just the artstoko, the language, sound, embodiment in the form of almost like a channel. Uh,
Mm.
what we relaying the voice express. So it's whew, wow, I see you doing this. I definitely feel this what we're doing. So you know how we're like holding our crystal, right? So we're holding it and then we're Yelora Metila. So it's like we're praying, but it's more or less we're activating, honing in to the crystalline structure. And then all of a sudden I feel Goishan. Now that it's merged with my feel all of a sudden just shot out.
Mm.
So this becomes a tool, issue another vessel, another catalyst in the form of expansion energetically. Goishan. So as we're incorporating our individual star languages now, so those languages are resonating, are vibrating, and now encoding, but at the same time awakening. So there's this harmonics resonance going on between me in the form of voice, as well as this crystal here, and there's a huge expansion that is going on. And so now like this crystal's turned on even more. So it's like, okay, so what are we going to utilize this frequency? We just activate it, but we're going to work with it. Well, like you were saying, I call this the laughing stone. So we say, let's just bring forth the resonance of laughter. So not it.
And once it starts, make your laugh has always been infectious. I can't help but smile every time I hear you, and this crystal is amplifying it.
It's a malachite.
Oh.
I just got high. So me and the crystal was like, I was like, okay, Garrett's out of the body.
This is such a beautiful, you know, simple way to engage with these things. I mean, the mind comes in as like, okay, well, malachite is for the heart and the mind, and it unifies it and
Mm-hmm.
heals karma. And it's like, well, at the very simplest form, you can get high on laughter.
And how do we heal all that, right? And how do we clear all that? It's through laughter.
Yeah.
Let's laugh it off. Laugh it out. Let
Yep.
those bubbles disperse. Let those bubbles dissipate on their own. and that's where the crystal already. So it's still being of service. It just sometimes it also more or less helps us in our more unconscious awareness. So we don't know it's going on, but we feel it, and I'm getting the positive upliftment from it. And in reality, there's stuff that's being let go. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to go into that process of how do I just do, just
just be.
be.
See. Exactly. Just be, just allow. So constantly. So again, in that remembrance with the child. So if you're in that embodiment and allowing yourself to express, to be in the inner dialogue with your child, with the holy child of our being, it's very easy because it just comes very flowy. It's very embodied, like just real easily. The best thing here's my mind trying to formulate definition to understand, but it just comes very easily. Okay, but again, when the
Right.
mind tries to be like Garrett, well, what's the inner child? And my inner child was this, and it's already like the mind trying to be like
Right.
you know, like
Grasp trying to rip it out of the sky.
like silly human, just laugh it off. Just laugh. It's that simple, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Now, Garrett, this has been absolutely amazing. I want to let our audience know that you do private sessions still,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, I still do private sessions.
So I'm going to be posting in everywhere, all of his links and things like that, so you all can see that. And I know when I had my session with you, one of the things I genuinely appreciated was you set the tone with the box initially,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Um, and so we get in that. Can you explain that real quick?
Yes, so that, and thank you for bringing that up because that has been kind of my priority in the last few weeks. Is that the Sasquatch, Uniac here, they brought these technologies to us,
Hmm.
um, to initially a select few, but the intention behind it was for us to be the more distributors of these teachings. And so this box technology came from the Sasquatch people. The access or the key, as I call it, to do this technique was given by these beings here, our peoples. And what they did was they supercharged a tree trunk down on the Navajo Nation. I was there with a group of individuals, and all of us witnessed this. And so what ended up happening is they supercharged a tree trunk for us to basically take pieces from, and then they showed us later that night how to utilize this box. And the box acts in service as like a vacuum cleaner. So it's just another tool. So what it was doing is energetically cleaning up and basically transmuting that no longer serves. And so from then on, it started to evolve into all these other additional symbols and additional techniques that were very simple, that would
Mm.
magnify, that would elevate and continue to expand. Because again, as we keep leveling up, as we're releasing more and more and more of the gunk and the outdated programs, the outdated problems, this tool was just of service to us in the form of keeping our vibrancy high and keep moving and moving and moving and leveling up more and more and more. And so this has been something that I've been really sharing with the audience very recently, because it's a tool to help them, to help us, in the form of, okay, how do I get rid of those traumas, Garrett? How do I get rid of this gunk? Well, very simple. Open a box, sit in there 10 minutes,
Mm.
some breath work, just do some intention setting, release it out, clean it out, reset yourself, step back out, erase, triangle, circle, recharge. So again, when you neutralize something, you always have to replace it back. So you take the gunk out, so you deconstruct, you reformulate, deconstruct, reformulate. So deconstruct is by neutralizing the outdated piece, then from there putting in the good stuff, like the good juju.
Well, the vibrations that you were talking about, right? Like even if you aren't sure, you can you can just hum and shift that awareness and that experience.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the Sasquatch medicine and their toolkit is about simplicity, and it's
Yes.
also about fun. They're like big goofballs. They're big gullible teddy bears. They just
is
like to be in that playfulness.
is that why the playfulness in the trees and the all of that, is
Yep.
that why we're seeing those things?
Yes, playfulness in the trees, or you might find your stuff goes missing, and
Oh
all
my gosh, is that them?
probably if you have one of those ones, yeah.
I thought, believing in all things, I was blaming the fairies. So sorry, guys.
Usually the Sasquatch, they'll hide stuff or they'll take it away for a while, but then they'll bring it back, or you'll find it just in a different spot. And just the way to tell that it was by them is that the vibration of that object that they touch, it's vibrating really high. So that's usually
Oh,
how I know. So whenever I find like stones that they bring to me, or it's like just fairly recently, 3 days ago, I found some of their hair for the first time in my
oh
house.
my God.
And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
God, is this really from you? And then that's just skeptic mind, which is okay. Just carpet stuff. No, that's just old thread. And no, I see some of Garrett's hair. No, that's not true. Then I picked it up and and my hand, I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I know it's from them. I'm like, this is the
Right.
Sasquatch is sitting in Garrett's house.
What a place to be. What a place to be. And what, like you said, the logical mind. So I think based on you saying that the vibrations are changed, I can stop being disgruntled about my stuff going missing. I can be grateful now.
Yeah, because when they bring it back, I bet you it's going to be a lot more supercharged.
Right.
You'll
Right.
have
What
like a different access to it, you know?
and for the crystals, because I often talk to people about the crystal beings that go missing, and that it's heartache and heartbreak. But now there's a different access point. We tend to think, I don't have, or maybe I wasn't deserving, but it's like, no, we got to upgrade this for what you're about to do with it. So
Yes, that's
here you
correct.
go.
Especially with those tools that we've utilized for a longer period. If we've worked with those tools for some time, then again, too, if we're growing in our vibrancy, those
Hmm.
tools have to also match where we are to keep that effectiveness going on, you know? So that's where, again, from with the Sasquatch wood, it transitioned into Sasquatch Wands, which is one that you have. So now
Yes.
I have these Sasquatch Wands that I've been distributing out to many individuals, and then I would just send them my YouTube channel and say, "Here, watch this YouTube," because again, it's very simple. Working with the box, working with the triangle circle, and then everyone's like feeling it. They're really feeling the intensity that's coming from it because again, the veil's very thin right now. So it's like, oh, whoa. Welcome to the reality.
So wonderful. We can access you through YouTube, and we can access and connect with you, well, through the star being languages, of course. It's just
Yes,
be
yes.
toning. I remember after one class with you, I had to drive to my
Oh,
center, and
you
yeah, I was
guys,
like, okay, gonna ground. And then I was in the shopping center, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna just start going. And so I just started, and you bring this through the sounds, the starter sounds. So I started doing that, and then I went into language, and I couldn't get out. And I was like, it was like I was stuck in part of a harmony. So I don't know if you were toning at the same time, but felt very connected to you in that moment.
yes,
And
yes.
so we can connect through those ways, intentionally, unintentionally. But I encourage you guys, go and seek him out. We have the links up in the chats
Mm-hmm.
and in both YouTube and Facebook.
Yep.
Certainly reach out to me if you need to. I'm happy to share his information.
Mm-hmm.
His session was life-changing. The one that I did with you, absolutely life-changing. I love that it was so heartfelt, but it was very like they're telling you you're supposed to be doing this. Why aren't you doing it? And I was like, um, well, no excuses, but it was still from such a loving place. So please, reach out. And how do we connect with you if we feel drawn to the squashy wands? How
Oh,
do we?
they can reach out to me directly. So on my email, it's on my website, or
Mhm.
also too you can give them phone number and they can send a quick text to me because that's the quickest way.
Okay.
Texting for me because I can pull out my calendar right away. So if they're interested in wanting to schedule a one-on-one, I can pull up calendar and we can come to a day that works for both of us. And then also with the wand itself, the ones they are whew, I usually ask, whew, wow, there's some frequency, I'll tell you right now. I think it's excitement because Garrett just went like this again. Another layer. Boy. So that frequency just shot out some more. I'm like, okay, which is a good thing. uh, yeah, so the ones are assisting many individuals because that's all part of the beingness. So right now we're just acting in a service in the form of facilitating the healings, like helping them to facilitate it. And then, but we're also offering the tools and the techniques on how to work with it so that everyone can take charge of their own individual, cleaning up their own individual letting go of all that no longer serves. And these tools are just helping them to do so. A lot of the awarenesses, too, I've just been talking about the on my website. My website has a lot of information when it comes to the many interviews I've done. Participated in the Sasquatch documentary, Sasquatch Speaks. So I talk about a lot of this stuff. And on my Facebook, if you're a friend with Garrett, you'll get to see all the Facebook lives. I'm always speaking in language. You'll get to experience also the tones. I've been doing a lot of the toning and singing with my crystal singing bowl with the star language pieces. So I'm starting to allow more of that sound alchemy to come out in full expressive form. So it's just continual, so much plethora of things that that I'm just sharing with everyone. It's like, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Yes. Well, and I'm grateful for the access. You talked about how it opens you up and it's a lot of energy you have to bring in through the nose. I am curious, do you have to take breaks? How do you recuperate? Can I ask
Yeah.
that question?
Yes, I do. So after usually, so when we tried to connect back in DC, I tried to, well, when I came back here, I had to disconnect for about 2 days. Minimum
Okay.
for me is disconnect from 2 days. So usually what I'll do is I won't schedule any appointments. I won't have any type of classes for at least 2 days after a big event like that. And what I tend to do is I go back into nature. One of my charge up love is what I try to plan events around when I'm traveling. I plan events around hot springs. So I end up soaking
Oh,
it up because the waters, I release the gunk, but at the same time, the heat of that water charges this vessel back up. So therefore,
wow.
I'm able to go ahead and continue the work, for everyone else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Huh.
what I do.
Okay. I,
Yeah,
I like the idea of the hot springs.
yeah,
Sorry, that's where my mind went.
yeah.
Um,
I did try to
yeah.
look for one out there. The closest place, I think there was a place in either Virginia or Maryland on the state line somewhere. There was a natural spring that had mineral water that was being utilized to soak in, but I don't think it was as hot. I think it was
Oh,
just, but it still had the more minerals in it. So that would work just as well too, as long as I'm encased in more of that natural type of water. So that helps me recharge myself.
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
can do it. You guys can do it in the city with just your Epsom salt and add your Dead
Yes.
Sea salts in there. Add some essential oils. So it's the same concept,
Just cultivated by Mother Nature
right?
outside.
Exactly. And outside, or else more in a more modern sense, if you can't make your way to find a hot spring, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's
Very
all part of
cool.
it. Awesome, Miss Dahlia.
Well, any parting messages from our star friends?
Yes, that's so had. I think that's probably what they were waiting for.
Stop talking.
I know. Okay, stop being human. But they do it. Yes. Okay. So. Express through Iluani, the elemental. Elusinga nera tuturo si elan statis tu utania. We are in the beginning now. Unutan of newness, of new awareness. Ukisiani kisiku utun. And they're referring specifically to the springtime. So the blooms, stulta elesikinia. So this frequency that was coming from our beautiful ones from the bee kingdoms, the bees, as well as the Arcturians. The Arcturians initially, again, their frequency, it's really high. So you'll hear that. So when that happens, it turns into like a conduction, like a orbital conduction that's going on. So when you're around bee energy, listening to it or ingesting, the honey and the bee pollen. So yeah, yes, you can, yeah, yes, you can. They're suggesting to practice your play, practice your songful expression because this is what's going on with it. And you're almost like you're doing these mimics or muscle, like you're moving your mouth a certain way because you're getting used to more like that, again, that expansiveness. So you're opening up. So they're actually bringing you techniques of awareness, for the audience now, because I'm sure some are like, well, how do I access my language, Garrett? So this is where the bees, like more bee medicine, as well as this being in the bloom with the expression, ow, I see. Wow. So you're toning or you're making these mimicking of different sounds because you're stretching and you're awakening these muscles up. And then from there, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ah. So now you'll start to get comfortable in the more conscious expression of you, of us. And they're also talking about too putting your hands in the earth itself. Being in that gratitude for having this experience of awakening to the true embodiment of you, of us, of we. Funness. Funness, oneness, as I say.
What a message to go out on. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Right?
If you are catching this on the replay, if we could just section out the languages alone, this has been a powerful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure you're grounding and you're not driving as you're listening.
I know I do have to put that disclaimer every now and then. Say, don't be listening to this and driving, guys. You'll be on your real ship then.
You can't explain to the muggles what's happening, so don't try.
Yeah, but they can practice just like you experienced. You can practice. So once they get comfortable with the expression, like as the sounds start to come out, when you're driving, we kind of do go into that sort of hypnotic, meditative state. Ilusunsta akara. So that's where, again, a lot of times when we're in that space, as we're driving loan, it helps. It gets with the expression, full expression coming out. And that's where your helpers, like our individual guides and stuff, will help too, making sure is the sun that it's driving the vehicle with us at the same time, as we're practicing.
Perfect. Yep. And driving, doing dishes, whatever. When you're zoned out, right?
Babies are the best teachers. So like if you're doing your baby talk to the babies, that will put you in that space too.
Oh, and I've tried the star language with like itty bitty ones, and their eyes just get so big, and they're like, "Wait, you know it too!" And it just becomes such an exciting moment.
I usually will do that with like especially the toddlers after I know that I'm like, oh, star slow, I have to say hi. So when I do that, and I'll have one of them actually went like this, Garrett, are you gonna blow my cover? I'm just laughing.
Oh
I
my
just like,
God. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And look, we have I will no longer be speaking English. I'm
yeah,
here with you.
I know.
Don't do it. Give it up.
English is so 3D now. Que no conozco esa cara de esto. Welcome aboard. That means they made the cut.
Yes, yes. Welcome home.
Oh, woo. The energy is
Goodness.
really high. Woo, it's hot.
Yes. Well, we need to go and cool off.
Exactly.
And so thank you to everyone who joined the stream. Catch the replay, like and subscribe. Find Garrett, connect with him. You will not regret it. He is an amazing star being. And if nothing else, be inspired to find yourself through those heart languages, through the heart space. And this is changing the world. I know it is. I feel that.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you for being a vessel, Garrett.
You're welcome.
All right. Good night, everyone.